kitty. Show us your good kitty. Okay.
Alright, so everybody here, I'm sure, at one point or another has experienced a little rumbly tumbly in their stomach because they're hungry. And for most of us, it's usually just a simple fix. You reach for something out of the fridge or out of the cupboard, fix it up, problem solved. But for quite a few people, that's unfortunately not an option. According to the USDA, about 14.9% of American households are what's called food insecure, which is the limited or uncertain availability of nutritionally adequate and or safe food. A temporary or interim outlet for these food insecure households is food pantries. And it's been a real lifeline for a lot of those people, but unfortunately they've come under some troubles recently in the last few years with the recession and the drought that we had last year and everything. Food supplies are running real low. Their food banks are running low on volunteers. And just to exacerbate the problem, the demand for assistance is even higher than it ever has been before. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this entire problem that plagues the entire nation, and I want to urge you guys to go out there and, if not donate some food, then just help out, at least once a month, once a week, something like that at the food bank, and because they're kind of hurting, and I can know that they definitely need you. The hunger problem in America is probably worse than a lot of people might think. In 2011, about 50 million Americans were living in food insecure households, and about 17 or almost 17 million of those were children. And that equates to about 25 million or so Americans that face hunger every day. So, like I said before, the increased demand with the drought and with the recession, the demand's just going up and up and up as we go. According to the Wall Street Journal, the enrollment in SNAP is basically what's called food stamps now, has risen 70% in the last 4 years since 2008, since the recession started. 45% of the record 47.8 million SNAP participants are children. And it's getting a lot harder because the people who once were able to donate food and volunteer at these food pantries are indeed themselves looking for assistance. People getting laid off, and companies aren't doing as well, and so a lot more people are looking for assistance now. The food shortages, like I said, the drought that we had last summer certainly didn't help anything. It was the worst drought that we've experienced in over 50 years. Because of that, the government's purchases of emergency food supplies and surpluses fell dramatically. For a majority of the networks, the food networks that are out there to provide assistance, a lot of them saw their government donations fall by over 50% since last summer. And then the largest organization in America, Feeding America, saw their portion of government donations fall from 28% down to 17%. And for as much as they do throughout the country, that's quite a hefty toll. Also, what's happening is that grocery stores and restaurants that usually supply these donations are starting to hold on to their supplies a lot tighter. Food prices are going up. They need to watch their bottom line, make sure the profits are staying up and everything. So the donations that they supply to these food pantries are getting kind of slim, and it's just compounding the entire problem altogether. Like I said, the volunteers, there's a desperate shortage of volunteers across the country. Like I said before, with a lot of people losing their jobs and getting laid off, people who were once able to volunteer and supply food are now filing into the lines of these food pantries looking for help, and there's just not enough people to do that. Especially people with small budgets that were already tight in the first place, and now they're getting laid off, and they have to watch their bottom line even more. And like I said, some and then when these food banks and these food pantries do finally get these surpluses of food coming in so they can distribute them, they suddenly find themselves with not enough volunteers to organize all the food, distribute the food. Takes a lot of manpower to keep the entire network running, and unfortunately there's just not enough. Especially in the summer, there's pretty significant dips in volunteerism, people going on vacations, it's nice weather if people want to go outside. They don't really have volunteering on the top of their mind most of the time. But unfortunately, hunger doesn't take a holiday, and it's ever going. And so with all of these problems, it's definitely a huge issue across our nation. I mean, anything you guys can do to help donate food or volunteer at these food pantries would be extremely appreciated, because you have no idea, you could be helping out your next door neighbor for all you know, for as many people that are on food stamps nowadays. So, with all these problems, the shortage of food, shortage of volunteers, and the ever increasing demand for help, these organizations are looking for a lot more help, a lot more volunteers than ever before. So I really encourage you guys to go help out in your local food pantry, or at least donate some more food, because they need a lot more of both.
Good job. Yay!
Good, you made me want to go out and volunteer.
I know, I did.